Hello, my name is Caroline. I am a senior in the electrical engineering program at Saginaw Valley State University and a fourth-year Writing Center tutor. I am happy to bring you a video series on writing in the sciences. In this series, we will cover the basics of scientific writing, including topics like the IMRaD format, a general layout for scientific papers, references, citations, and more. Right now, you are likely worried about writing a lab report that is good enough to get a passing grade. But consider this process as training for your future as a scientist. As a professional in the sciences, you will be writing many reports about your work and research. Science is collaborative, and it is likely that people outside of your field who do not share your specific knowledge or expertise will read your reports. You may write experiment reports or research papers to receive grant funding from a board, to update your boss about a project, or to share a discovery or new technology with the public through publication in a journal. The ability to write effectively is one of the most important, yet often neglected, skills for any scientist or engineer. Regardless of your professional or academic path, you will eventually be required to write about your work. Developing the ability to communicate complex ideas and processes to a general audience during your undergraduate education will save you a lot of strife, and you'll be able to hone these skills as you progress in your career. Let's take a look at the basic components of a scientific paper. This diagram shows the general structure of a scientific paper. Most scientific papers are structured using the IMRaD format. IMRaD stands for Introduction, Methods and Materials, Results, and Discussion. Most papers also require additional components, such as a conclusion or an abstract. You should always use your course materials, such as your instructor's rubric or lab assignment sheet, to determine which sections are required for your report. In this video series, we will discuss in detail what type of information each section should contain. As you can see in the diagram, the general structure is an hourglass shape. The introduction starts broadly by providing the research question and ends narrowly with the hypothesis. The methods and materials section, as well as the results section, are narrow in scope as well. In these sections, you should present only what the reader must know to replicate the experiment and the data you gathered through experimentation. The shape of the discussion section mirrors that of the introduction. In this section, you will reintroduce your hypothesis and describe whether your results supported the hypothesis. This section will conclude more broadly by discussing the implications of your research and perhaps making recommendations for future studies. Some instructors combine the results and discussion sections instead of having all the results presented in one section separate from the interpretation of those results. An advantage of the combined format is that you don't have to flip back and forth between the table or graph of the results and the text that interprets it. Be sure to check the specific instructions for the report so you know how your instructor wants you to organize these sections. As the author of a scientific paper, you act as an objective reporter, presenting the facts of your research clearly and without bias. You should remember that the goal of the paper is not to make an argument in favor of your hypothesis, but to present the facts you gathered through experimentation and explain whether the data you collected confirm the hypothesis you proposed. The IMRaD structure serves as a reminder of this goal. The sections, which are always presented in the same order, guide the audience through the entire research process. Depending on the breadth of the research question, scientific papers can be lengthy. It is important to remember that each section can consist of multiple paragraphs. You can use headings in the body of the paper to help indicate the transition between sections, and subheadings within sections to organize ideas. Most scientific journals have specific rules about formatting, and your instructor may too, so be sure to check. Speaking of formatting, there is no unified research paper format in engineering and the sciences. Professional societies, such as the American Society for Mechanical Engineers, ASME, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE, the American Institute of Physics, AIP, the Council of Science Editors, CSE, and the American Chemical Society, ACS, each have their own style guide. These style guides provide specific standards for design and formatting of documents and citations. You may already be familiar with APA style, which is used in many science courses at SVSU. If not, the Writing Center offers an interactive presentation on APA style to help get you started. However, just as each journal and professional society has their own standards to guide format and structure, it is likely that your instructor will have specific standards as well. Always use your course materials, such as syllabi or rubrics, or ask your instructor to figure out what format you should use. You can find papers organized according to the IMRaD structure in most major scientific journals. It is widely regarded as the most efficient structure for research writing, as it allows readers to locate relevant information quickly, without reading the entire article. It also provides sufficient information to inform subsequent studies and allows researchers to validate findings. Though the sections in the IMRaD structure are always presented in the same order, it is not necessary to write them in the order they are presented. It is recommended that you write them in the following order: Materials and methods, Introduction, including background information, Results, Discussion and conclusion, and finally, the abstract. The Materials and Methods section should always be written first, as it provides an overview of what you did during the experiment and includes information about how the data was collected. It is likely the easiest section to write. The introduction can be written next and should present the hypothesis as well as any information that the reader needs to know in order to understand the experiment. The results section should include the findings of the experiment, often presented using graphs, tables, or charts, as well as a written explanation of each graphic. Then, the discussion and conclusion should be written. The discussion provides evaluation of and commentary on the results, while the conclusion highlights major findings. The abstract for any paper should always be written last, as it provides an overview of the entire research process, noting important points from each section, providing the hypothesis and the major findings of the experiment. We will go over each of these sections in more detail, discussing what information each section should contain and looking at examples, starting with the Methods and Materials section.